Welcome in, everyone. RFK Refugees Podcast. Ted here, Jon here to break down the off-season edition / international break edition for the NWSL edition of the show. That was way too many editions.
More editions.
The
More
new
editions.
Jon, how you doing, my friend? How was your weekend? Hope it was good.
Well, I have a sick child in the house now, so good is relative. I think I'll be taking another day off of work to make sure that she is alive and well. But other than that, I watched my former favorite team, Yankees, get walloped or have their hearts ripped out of their chest, and they're already losing now, which
Good.
is cool. So yeah, that was my weekend.
Grand.
What about yours? Do you have a good weekend?
It was busy. Did the last Cone Kickers game of the season. So that was fun. My boss, who doesn't normally go to games, was there. So that was cool. Got to see him in person, which usually I just see him virtually. So yeah, it was a good weekend, and then did a lot of soccer refereeing, and I kept knowing this year I was gonna find my limit. It's like I'm gonna be doing a lot of refereeing. I'm gonna find my limit. I think I might have reached it. I was like, the last game, it was like adult league game. I was like trying to just keep myself awake and focused and not trying to run as someone makes some sort of noise in the background there.
That was a dog. That was a dog making a noise.
It's everybody getting sick. All right.
We're all live streaming.
But I got through it, and that's what's important. So
for those listening to the show Tuesday, right now we are just I want to give you a feeling of what's going on here. So we're normally we're streaming live the way we do every Monday night on YouTube, Twitch, soon to be Facebook, because thank you, listeners, you got us over 100. So thanks to that will happen soon. But we also are streaming at the same time on Instagram Live via our phones, via a plugged-in microphone. Hi. So I don't know if that's going to work or we're going to keep doing this, but I thought it would be funny to try. So we are trying it. And now I also put a request out for questions on all of those platforms, and we got 5 million of them. So we should probably get started answering them before we run out of time.
Yeah, we probably, because we have lives and family, and they don't want us to be away from them for too long. Let's get into it. Let's kick off. I had DC United off-season kickoff. You have decided that nope, we're going to talk some Spirit in the first part of
the team. The only team that's still in the running. We should talk about quickly, very very quick. Rose Kawasi, who you agreed with this red card because she attempted to headbutt somebody, regardless of the fact that she did not actually headbutt somebody. Had already had a red card. Was already going to be suspended for this game coming up on Sunday. Now she is also suspended for the first round of the playoffs, which I give a thumbs down emoji to that. I think that stinks. But I don't know. There's not a lot of red cards issued in NWSL, and there's not a lot of red cards that get extended via additional punishment typically. That's very rare at NWSL. I don't see that very often. So that stinks for the Spirit.
It was the strike, and I believe probably the headbutt afterwards. So the strike's the first red card, and then the headbutt after might be sort of an after the play type review. So unfortunate. I think I'm not concerned, I guess, about the first playoff game with regards to the Spirit. I think whoever they play, they should be able to find a way to win. It's not good to be missing players, but
no,
we'll see. We'll see if there's an impact. So there's been the international break. I have not watched, admittedly, watched any U.S. women's teams.
Hal Hirschfeld got her first cap, so congrats to her. That's the only thing that I care about.
Trini Rodman, unfortunately, not winning the bound, not in the top 3 of the Ballon d'Or. I thought I saw that she was 9th, or she was 9th in voting or something like that for the Ballon d'Or.
Did Jonah win the Coach of the Year or Coach?
No,
trophy?
I believe that. I think they went to Emma Hayes.
I mean that's the only other place it could go. I think.
Yeah. So
fair enough.
Gold medal. I think that pretty much seals it. Pretty much seals it. So let's get into it. Let's talk DC United off-season roster news, because we actually, despite the fact that teams are out of the playoffs, we got the playoffs going on. Before we get in that though, can I just say, the MLS playoff schedule is the dumbest thing in the entire world. We've got 2 games going on right now. We've talked about this, I feel like, a lot.
Every year.
We'll talk about it again. Every year we talk about it. I'm fine with a 3-game series. I don't, hey, that's cool. I think it offers some drama. I think it, gives the playoffs a little more to it than just kind of the one-off games and kind of the blink and it's over type scenario. But man, dude, it's Saturday. You have a Saturday and Sunday. You have an afternoon game, a 12 o'clock game then a mid-afternoon game, then an evening game, then the late game on the West Coast. Sunday, same sort of lineup. Boom, you've got your first round games done, and then your second round games can be on either Wednesday, or you can extend it to Saturday, with that Wednesday being kind of like a punishment. You got to go midweek and flip back and play. Like, I think there's ways you could do this that would make more sense. Like, look at the first day of the NHL playoffs. I think it's like every single team playing on that Saturday or Sunday, and it's like loaded up with just a bunch of like hockey. Come on, this needs to make more sense. We'll talk about a move that potentially they're making that we think actually makes a lot of sense, and we'll get into that in a minute. First, let's get into the big DC United news. Maybe surprisingly, or maybe we felt like it was coming after the whole Alex Bono story came out, but DC United has announced their roster decisions.
First time ever being the first team to do so.
Yeah, right after they eliminated. I mean, I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that, like, you know, they were pretty sure who they weren't going to keep and who they were gonna cut. I won't go through the players who are keeping their guaranteed contracts. I think we already talked a little bit about maybe last week about the situation surrounding Matthias Klick. He's 35. He will be back next year. He does have to. He apparently met the minutes guideline in 2023 for his contract to be automatically extended. So again, I'm sure there might be a certain GM that might be throwing darts at a senior consultant's face on a dartboard, or, you know, doing the classic Toby Ziegler, like bouncing the ball really loudly against his office door over and over again.
Oh, West Wing reference. Dig it.
Yeah, and going for it, man. Election's coming up, so players were exercised their contracts were Aaron Herrera, Garrison Tubbs, probably not surprising for either of those. And then the players that were declined, maybe Tubbs might be a little surprising, but I think, you know,
they gave up some draft. They gave up some asset to acquire him before the draft. So, and he filled in. He was fine. I think he was fine, and they have hopes for the future. So it made sense.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with him, you know, with him next season. Like I said, give up assets. There's definitely a theme. It's players who, you know, other than players who, you know, were, let's say, homegrown players, or players who are still under contract maybe as a homegrown. All the players coming back are all players that, you know, other than really Matthias Klick and Christian Benteke, these are all players that Ali Mackay brought in. They either traded for, or he signed, you know, from USL. He signed from, you know, free agency, whatever, what have you. They're all players he signed. Players are not coming back: Alex Bono, Christian Dahome, Nathan Crockford, Jeremy Garea, Tyler Miller, Christopher McVeigh, Martin Rodriguez, Hayden Sargis, and Luis Zamudio. If you read that right, there are 4 goalkeepers on this list. How many goalkeepers are on the roster, John?
That's right, a big old bagel, sir. That's a big negative number. It's 0. Nobody.
And Russell Canouse and Pedro Santos, also are free agents. Their contracts were not. I think they weren't offered basically a new contract. No word if they are being looked at, explored. I think based on the goodbye post for Russell Canouse, it's.
I think so too.
He's done.
Before we move on to dissect that list, we've got a live viewer asking a question. I want to make sure I get to it. And I think we've talked about this before on other shows, but let's talk about it one more time. I think it's Nathan Arbitman says, "Would you have brought back Klick if it wasn't required?" I'm a no. He has skill, but doesn't put in the effort. In his opinion, does not leave it all on the field. That's I don't think that I share those particular perspectives on him. I think that he is a player that the designated player tier is a challenge to justify sort of the game he plays and his age and his speed. He's relatively very durable other than red cards. He doesn't miss games. I think that he plays in a position that does not require lots of running. He tends to use positioning when he is going to intercept the ball, and he gets a lot of deep lying assists and is a decent crosser of the ball. He had a lot of the goal creating actions on the team for a team that lacked a creator. So for me, it was just, boy, I would have loved to cap him as a TAM. And if not, then I would have probably said, let's move on, because we probably can find more impact from a different designated player. But we didn't get that option. So we are stuck with what we've got.
We'll see what happens. My prediction is, would I have brought him back? Maybe if you wanted to go down to a TAM deal. Again, he is 35. He certainly is getting up in their age. I disagree that I agree with you and disagree with the person asking the question. That he was that he didn't try. He was, I think, he hustled. I will be curious to see, if you get a more number 6 behind him, you stick him in that 8 role where he can sort of be that more of that two-way player. He doesn't have to have the defensive responsibilities that he had, whether you can get some more production. I think you look at his stats, and I have a piece that's currently sitting in the draft status up on the Patreon. Probably get it out here soon.
Nice.
Talking a little bit sort of what's happening, and sort of the general vibe of the team. But, he still pulled in, I think it was like 9.2 expected assists,
Great.
which is actually an improvement from last year. And expected assists is one of those things where you're putting the ball in a good spot to where a player should be able to finish it. It's not your fault the player doesn't finish it. So I think he still has some value. As a DP, no, I agree. I would rather us go look for somebody else. The team does still have options as far as signing a DP. Matty Patola's contract is very easily be able to be bought down. He's somewhere around like the 700, like he's just like 100,000 over the like, or 200, 300,000 over the like.
You can
the
find that
threshold
allocation money in the cushions.
Yeah. He was brought in today. He was bought in as a young designated player to keep his cap number low so we could just bring him in this like cap strapped team that DC United was. Now you don't have that issue. So there will be a DP slot. I will also say, I think there is maybe a silver lining to having a player who is already settled into the team. Does he perform at a DP level? That's debatable, but he's not poor. He's not a bust. And, you at least have a solid foundation you can kind of build upon. Because I think the risk you might run into is if you have two DP slots open, you're maybe filling one of those in the winter, and then you're going to have to hold on in the summer.
Yep.
We'll also see what they do. And you know what? I'm going to save that bit for my piece. There's a lot of different roster ways they can do this, with opening up that slot. So
let's walk through each of these players that has been cut and say our feelings on it. All right. So I'll start. Alex Bono is a player that has the reactions elicited were almost, I don't know, say surprising to me, but it feels like a lot of fans really started to like this player. Really thought that he was, he made a lot of. You look at his stats; they're not horrible. They're pretty decent. They're I think people have said they're almost like league average or middle of the road. His cap number was reasonably affordable. He had an option. And I think that it's certainly, I think we said all throughout, like, he is not a problem, but he's not necessarily the solution either. And I think that holds. I think that's probably the case. I'm somewhat surprised, and we'll talk about the rest of the goalkeepers not keeping any, not just like to have the slot, but like the two young players, Crockford was a body that got brought in and signed because of Tyler Miller's injury at the beginning of the season. So they needed a third goalkeeper, and he stuck because they had lots of roster room and no money to fill him. So he got a red shirt a year as a professional soccer player, basically. Zamudio is a bit of a surprise, but what do you think about Bono not coming back?
I think you kind of hit it. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. I think it'd be fine to bring him back. I am wondering if because I remember coming sort of into this year, there was no guarantee beginning of the season that we were even thinking about bringing back Christian Benteke.
Yep.
I mean, it was, he had an okay season, 14 goals. It wasn't nothing, but he really probably needed to put the performance he did this year to even consider about bringing him back. I think that has possibly shortened like the window that maybe Mackay's looking at, where it's like, no, we need to get, we don't need just like a guy to be decent or serviceable. We need, an elite goalkeeper. We need a guy who's going to be, in the running for goalkeeper of the year. That's how really, if you look at teams how they got better, how they started winning championships, is they had a goalkeeper that could do that types of things. Bono was not going to do that. Bono's 30 years old. He is, yes, goalkeepers develop later, but by now you would know if he had the potential to be sort of like an elite level talent. So I think it's sad for him. I think he was a good guy. I think maybe he thought he was safe, that he was going to be kind of a part of this rebuilding. He probably said, well, look, I'm cheap. They can't just cut every goalkeeper, can they? So,
I mean, there is certainly an argument to be made that you could have kept him around as a competition for the guy that you really want. But clearly, I mean, they watch these goalkeepers every game. They must have been really dissatisfied either with the dollar for performance value or just the performance writ large. Like just saw too
Mhm.
many problems, or they train poorly. We don't know. You know, we don't know what we don't know. But this is like a big, to me, that move of like having all the keepers gone, I think was the most like, this is my team.
Mhm.
I am the buck stops here. I'm going to make the big calls, and they may not make sense to you, but I'm going to do them. So
A-
I'm okay with that.
and I get into this in my piece, I reflect a little bit. The last time, I guess, it really felt like kind of like a changing era at DC. And, I talk about 2017, that summer window, before the stadium was going to be built. We paid a transfer fee for Paul Arriola. We brought in Russell Knaus, we'll talk about him maybe in a little bit as one of the players who's gone. It didn't work out that way, but at the time that felt kind of like, this is a new era. This is a team that can at least spend some money. And this is what this kind of feels like. This feels like a team now that's, there's a guy who has a clear idea and a clear vision. It's not just like, well, let's hold on to some of these guys because, let's not try to, reinvent the wheel here. Let's just be safe and because keeping Bono would be a safe move.
Yep.
It would be stopgapping. And this is like, nope, this is happening now. And
The one funny thing that my memory about that big day of all those signings is my seat was directly under the walkway for the owner's box. So I literally watched Zoltan Stieber in his like Eurotrash skinny jeans like walk right above my head in the like graded concourse up to the owner's box before they got announced. I was like, all right, well, here we go. Here we're with signs and players, but that RFK just those little charms. It's good
little
stuff.
charms.
I'm gonna let you start with a player so I don't take all the low hanging fruit
Yeah.
on analysis of each of these players. So go to the next one.
Yeah, we'll go to Christian Dahome. Not surprising. I think maybe there was some thought, well, he looked pretty good, blah, blah, blah. I think we have to I think what this is Ali is saying, look, the grass is greener, guys. And I'm not going to say people don't watch the league. Watch the rest of the league. Look at the players for some of these teams that are playing. Watch the playoffs. Look at the players that are around like Dahome's salary that are starting for some of these playoff teams. All of them are much better than Christian Dahome. And I think that's the message here. He was on, I think, around $1 million. It was 900 some $1,000 on his contract, taking up a ton of cap room. I think I don't think he'll be remembered too poorly, but I think it's just a matter of there's the grass is greener on the other side. So
Christian Dahome will be a remember some guys type of player in a couple years.
He'll be the trivia question.
That is my promise to you. He will be the Leonard Pahoy of this era. You'll be like, oh yeah, he did some stuff sometimes. The thing that I will not forget about him is how poorly suited he was to play left back.
Yeah.
And he kept having to play left back because we didn't have enough actual left backs. So that is no credit to him. When he actually got to play his position for a time, he did decently, but never enough to come close to justifying a salary. And that's not his fault.
Yeah.
Next player, Nathan Crockford. Nathan Crockford, like I said, a body who got to do like a Make-A-Wish as an MLS player for a full year. I do not believe he will make another MLS roster. Maybe he goes to the USL, maybe, and probably not USL Championship, maybe USL League One, maybe USL League Two. I'm not sure. Probably not even that. He did get to play against Celtic FC for like 20 minutes when Zamudio got a injury and saved a penalty and then conceded 3 goals. So
yeah,
that's all for Nathan Crockford.
Yeah, I got nothing else for him. Jeremy Garea. This is a homegrown player. Not much you can really say. He was like the longest tenured player on the roster to not have a single MLS minute. And then things got so bad on the injury list. I think he actually did have at least a couple MLS minutes.
Couple in a row, in fact. He had opportunities.
He will go down. I mean, I think disappointment. But really from him, because he was a guy, El Salvadorian player, still in the El Salvadorian like national team like picture. Like he gets regular call-ups there. I think that says more about the state of the El Salvador national team than like necessarily Jeremy Garea as a player. We'll see. I think he'll find his way down to USL Championship. Maybe he gets in a good situation. Maybe you'll see him, really blossom or develop. But just a player that just like never like you never saw him really. You had coach after coach come in with an opportunity to say, well, let's give this kid a look, and they all were like, nope, he needs more time. And then it was like, well, too late. We're done.
He didn't even do well in Loudon. Like he would play a lot, but he would always be the first sub out. Like just Brian Martin was not really a fan.
Yeah. So I think that says a lot when you have, all these coaches come in. No one's even really given him much of an opportunity. But I think there's maybe some reason for that. So,
Yep. Tyler
next up.
Miller.
Yeah.
Tyler Miller, a player who we thought was gone 1,000 times. I have to say I was the first one to say that this dude is out and he's never going to play for this team again, and he didn't. He didn't suit up for the friendly against Celtic. Had a run. I don't know how many games it was when he returned from injury. It was quite clearly an opportunity to showcase him for a trade or move that did not materialize. No option came. He almost had a loan deal. I thought it was to Swansea. Was it to Swansea?
I think
Fell
it was
through.
Swansea.
No work permit. He's certainly he was a fine goalkeeper. Similar to situation Alex Bueno. I feel like these players they will be on another MLS roster next year.
Mm-hmm.
But in this situation, they won't have to pay any compensation to DC United to have him. So I see him as a backup somewhere in the league next year. That's my thought.
Yeah. I think he will. I'll have to go check I'm not sure if he's a free agent. He might have to do the MLS. What is it? The MLS reentry draft. Which
he had pending option, so it was let go.
That's right. He's out of the free agent list. So yeah.
Remind me how this goes. All the players that have their options declined are part of the expansion draft list, though, correct? Like they can be chosen from them
if they aren't players. So yeah, they any player. Yeah, they're on the expansion draft. Sorry, they're on the possibly. I don't know. I forgot to go back and look at the expansion draft.
We'll have to reacquaint ourselves with the stupidest mechanism in sports.
Yeah, but next up, Christopher McVeigh. Kim Kolb correctly pointing out that he was a Mackay signing, or he was a Mackay, guy they traded for to bring in. I think that was mostly because his contract was something around the range of like 200-some thousand. Like he was an extremely cheap player to bring in.
It was also injury cover for Birnbaum because he got signed after it was announced that Birnbaum was not healthy.
Yeah, so I think he was a player. Early this season, I thought he played pretty well. I thought he showed a lot. I thought maybe he was a player you bring back and, at least have some with the idea that you then go out and get another center back. But I think it's very clear that Troy, I think we've heard some conversations that, I think that they've had with fans that, Troy really wasn't the biggest fan of Christopher McVeigh. And I think maybe that's what signed it. He was like, no, I don't think we can use this guy. So you want to go to the next one?
Martin Rodriguez, a player that I have felt 9 different ways about since he's been here. A player to come from the second division of Turkey on $1 million a year, or almost $1 million a year. He got injured. He tore his ACL. He came back. He did not have necessarily the winger speed that he did previously. Kind of struggled for minutes for quite some time, but then sort of turned into a player, learned a new skill set as injured players often do. And was able to be a very successful midfield player. Very, good at moving the ball, good at beating players on the dribble. Great, pretty decent passer of the ball. Again, cursed by a big contract. Really never was going to be brought back at what he came here as. But I think that would have been malpractice to have done so. That might have been a Casper move to have brought back one of these guys, either Dahomey or Rodriguez, just like for the sake of continuity. But he did not do that. So I wish him well. I hope he gets a job. He wanted to go to Colo Colo like 1 million times and kept talking about it. So I hope he lands there just for his sake.
I think he will. I think at this point we'll see. It'll be whatever his contract is. I'm sure his agent was like, "Look, man, you're not going to get not going to get this type of contract at Colo Colo. So why don't you see this out and then make the best of it." And we'll try to see if we can get you there.
I will keep him tracked on my foot mob, so I will know. I tend to, like, after the year is over, I go in and get rid of all of my track players that leave the team for the most part. Edison Flores continues to be on here, just making me mad. Still, whenever he scores a goal, I'm like, son of a. But yeah, I'll keep him on there because I liked him.
Hayden Sargis next up on the list. I don't think any surprise there.
Follow him on YouTube.
Yeah, they follow him on YouTube. Guy they loaned out several times with no real clint that he would really develop. I think it was just we'll get you minutes, we'll get you opportunities, and then I think we've already talked about Luis Zamudio.
Yep.
So I don't think there's really anything else I want to say.
The only thing about him is he got scammed buying fake cleats, and he posted about it on his story.
Whoops.
It made me laugh later in the year. A player, honestly, I thought loaned to the USL Championship and was really good. I think that's his level. I think he's going to go down there and start next year.
Yeah. So, players who are out of contract now, again, with all these players, they've declined on contracts. They could go and potentially resign them. They might take them in like the second round of the re-entry draft. You could see that happening. Maybe to still bring them back. I'd be curious to see. DC has done that in the past. So, players out of contract who are now free agents. Russell Canals, sad. I think sad state of affairs. This is a guy again that was brought in on that 2017. Maybe not the player who was the prize catch. He was probably like third fiddle to like Zoltan Stieber and Paul Arriola because they had a higher pedigree than him. But I think he ended up being probably the most impactful to the team of those three. Maybe Paul Arriola comes in, close behind him. But just the guy, I still have some hope maybe that there is, he's got a kid. He's only lived in DC. I don't know what his like playing career is. I think if there is some opportunity out there on free agency and some team, maybe competing for a championship that wants just a solid, center defensive midfielder cover, he might pick up a contract there. Or we'll see what happens. I'd say keep an eye on that one. I'll be curious to see what happens. Or
as I said on the Friday Patreon show, which I remind you to go sign up patreon.com/RFK Refugees. Sometimes I might even do another one. I think watch out for Philadelphia for him. I think it's a fit. I think it's a fit from where his family is in his past. I think that's a very likely landing spot if he stays in the league.
Yeah. And then Pedro Santos, 35. I highly doubt there'll be anybody wanting to go grab him at this point, unless you're really just desperate for like any sort of left back coverage. So
I'd like him to come back. I'd like him to come back as a veteran that is not expecting a lot of minutes.
Yeah. I'd say if you can convince him to, take the player coach role, you can pay him more as a coach, and then he can take the league minimum. Wouldn't mind that. Wouldn't mind that at all. Others DC news: DC United have rejected a third offer from Matej Akinbone. Let's dive a little bit into this. I feel like on the show, I don't know whether I've talked about this or how I've communicated this, or maybe I talked about this last week. I said, I think if you get an offer on the table and you go to Troilus and you say, hey, do you think this guy can start next year? If he can, then great. Let's keep him. We'll turn down the offer. The offer wasn't great, and I've already seen some like of the U.S. men's national team like people wring their hands at this, and I'm like, the kid's 18. I think it would have been a struggle to get a work permit, all things considered. I think that maybe also factors into it. I think they value him a little higher, and I think it's maybe a sign that maybe there's some plans for him in 2025. Got to be a little bit of pressure to play him. So
if he doesn't play, then that's sort of malpractice for the kid.
Yeah. And then Dave Casper returning as a senior consultant, and I put the thing in quotations. Of course, we linked this to the GM role last fall.
What exactly is it that you do here? Would be the question that the consultants would come in and ask him.
Yeah, there's a lot of people wringing their hands. I think there is a large sense from the fan base. They want a catharsis. They want the, they want
they want
the
an effigy.
Yeah, they want that. Dave Casper is no longer with the team. We got it with Chad Ashton. Chad Ashton, who had been a scout with the team, has apparently now left. So he has departed for other waters. I think this is a case that I think Pablo has talked about. I think it's very obvious what's going on here. He's under contract, so they're paying him a lot of money. Rather than having to pay that out for a guy who can't do anything, well, maybe you can help manage the cap spreadsheet. Maybe you can make sure we're in the cap role. He is in no way. This is really like, for me, this is like a nothing story. I feel like golf just like, I understand he's got to report it. He has the story. He wants to tweet it out.
I think he knew that this would kick a hornet's nest.
This would drive up some mentions. This would drive up DC going to be average again. I'm like, guys, I'm telling you, Dave Casper's not running much with this club. He might be advising some things. He might be, if Mackay asked him what he thinks about, trying to work with this team. I think that's where maybe he does have a role. Maybe he knows, what would intrigue, the GM at Nashville or the GM at Cincinnati or something like that. So
I think we wanted him and Chad Ashton both to be handed a cardboard box and told to clear out his desk. That's what we wanted, and we'll never get it. No one gets fired here except for Hernan Masada. That's the only person who gets actual fired. And
my argument to that is, I think the situation.
He
I
was
feel
for
like
cause.
I feel like with Dave Casper, I do feel like it also says something like maybe there isn't much interest in like trying to in other teams to try to bring him in. So this might be
Seeing that
it.
contract out. All
Yeah.
right, let's
So
start these 9,000 questions that
well,
we have solicited. Go ahead. Did you have one more?
well, actually, this leads in. Let's do the question. This leads into something I wanted to make sure we discussed because we got some schedule news that I think should
All
be
right.
worth the really discussion.
Jeremy Ferrafino on Facebook. That's right, folks, on Facebook still. With your mom and uncle talking about politics and then a little RFK Refugees on the side. I really want your opinion on the proposal for a fall-spring season. Could be manageable with a 5-week break in Leagues Cup, mid-January to mid-February in warmer cities, including Mexico. Ted, I think you're going to have more thoughts on this than I am. What do you think about this?
I love this. They should do it. They should absolutely do it. And I don't really care. I don't care about the European calendar or like fitting. I feel like there's certain arguments in American soccer that boil down that sometimes there are good arguments. There's a good argument for promotion and relegation. There's a good argument for going to the European calendar that exists outside of the purist mind about how this is how the rest of the world does it or Europe doesn't, so we should do it too. I think there are a lot of disadvantages to when the playoffs happen. The playoffs are going on right now.
Yes, indeed.
Right in the middle
of the World Series
of the
and
World Series
and the
of
NFL and the NBA and the NHL.
Yeah, and NFL and MLB, other sports, NFL, college football, all of that. We know we live in this country. It
Yep.
absolutely it dominates every single aspect. It could be mid-March and they're still talking about, who's signing for what team and stuff like that. Football just dominates, and it dominates especially when there are actual games going on.
Right.
And so
May makes the most sense, right? You've got baseball that doesn't matter yet. You've got the NBA finals. That's important, but it's a 7-game series. And the Stanley Cup, but not the viewership of the NHL in the United States is pretty low. So I wouldn't worry about that.
It doesn't.
Go ahead.
All due respect to all due respect to the NHL. They do have very passionate fan bases. The NHL playoffs are super enjoyable. NBA as well. There is I don't want to say it's niche, but it's not the all encompassing, behemoth that the NFL is as far as like attention, and it's something you can break through. And I will also add, with the reason I love it as well, playing your championship in May, is that it gives you there's big important events around Europe like Champions League, like FA Cup finals and last season of Premier League that are like great lead-ins and great points. And it also puts your most important games during like what are the most important like moments of the MLS season? What are they, honestly?
Decision day.
Yeah, decision day. They are the beginning of the season when everybody's like, oh, let's see how these teams do. So like first kick is like a big day because you get to watch, all the games.
Yep.
Then everything goes immediately into a lull by like, May, June. Like everybody's just kind of going through the motions. And then you have your ending.
Ask our podcast analytics for when the interest wanes.
Yeah, we see it. And we see it also, in what we talk about, because a lot of the season feels very running through the paces, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we get to MLS Cup, we get to the playoffs, we get to Leagues Cup and all those things. And, Leagues Cup is in the middle. I'd be curious to see like what happens, how they work around that. I think they could figure it out. I think this guy suggests doing, mid-January to mid-February in warmer cities, including Mexico. I don't think you'll have teams want to relinquish that home game.
Nope.
I do wonder too. I wonder what the state of Leagues Cup is hearing all this. I'm like, I feel like there might be something coming to a head where maybe this thing kind of collapses a little bit. So we'll see.
Kim says originally the summer schedule avoided NFL and the NCAA and could get TV time, but what does TV mean in 2024, especially with the Apple deal? And then that's fair too. I think that's fair too. I think it depends on what else Apple is going to try to buy, if they're going to try to buy any other properties, and they want to maybe have every part of the year covered for destination viewing. I don't know.
Yeah, and you're important, and the argument, of course, people use, which is the argument, is, well, you're going to play in these, like, are you going to play in Minnesota in the middle of January? No, you're going to take a break. The season already runs until like sometimes first week of December, midweek of December. There's a chance you could run into a championship game, MLS Cup final in Minnesota, and it be snowy, or, the weather could be miserable, and you might have to like cancel the game and try to move it around or find another date.
Yep.
Why not have that happen like in the middle of the season? Like, who cares if like a week 14 game is postponed because there's bad weather in Minnesota, and you move it to the
Midweek
spring
sometime
schedule
else. Yep.
when things are better. Like, I mean, those things happen in Europe all the time, happen in Germany all the time. So to me, like, the argument against it to me has always never made sense. It's just like, yeah, how are you going to play in January? Don't play in January. There, done. Like,
There you go.
So, yeah, I think they should do it.
Todd
Yep.
Dodge asks, why aren't DC United bringing back Knaus, and who are they targeting for a goalkeeper? I think why they're not bringing back Knaus is they have a lot of depth in that defensive midfield position, for one, that one of them that they're paying a reasonable amount of money. He's a player he's getting a little bit older, and he's coming off of a major surgery that was not, physical related, but was kept him off the field for a while. I think he wants to start, or if he doesn't want to start, he wants assurances to compete. But I think with Halsey and Enau on the club, those are the players that the management has decided they want to put on the field. So
who did you say?
Enau and Peltola?
You said Halsey, I'm pretty sure.
Wow. I don't
We'll
think
check
I
the
did.
tape. People in the chat, go back. You definitely said Halsey.
It's possible. You had me thinking about RFK and the guys walking over my heads. And then what goalkeeper are they targeting? I don't know. No idea.
Yeah.
4 of them, 3 of them at least.
Yeah, I mean, you could look at some of the free agent list. I mean, I think they might dip into that a little bit to find some guys.
Bring back Joe Willis somehow.
Yeah, maybe if we can. If we
That'd
can.
be funny.
I mean, I did look at one name that popped up that I was like, maybe. I mean, I don't think he's completely without merit, but Steve Clark is out here with the pending option.
Come on back.
Yeah, might be interesting to bring him back. A lot of interesting players. Go check it out. Ryan Mara from the Red Bulls, maybe. Maybe that's a guy you can convince. Pedro Galaci also for Orlando City. That would be fun. That would be a wild.
And Andrew Tarbell a long time ago was considered a pretty big prospect in MLS. Yeah, so we'll see. I'm sure one of these guys, some of these JT Marcinkowski was another player. I believe he was in the U.S. men's national team pool for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, next question. I'm going to keep it moving.
Daryl Fett said, how much did Michelle Kane pay the Wizards minor league team to take Trinity Robbins' brother in the G League draft? Anything to keep Trinity happy here in DC.
Great. Hope that works. Hope that makes her happy. That's fantastic.
That's all we got to say about that.
DC Ulysses says, are there any salary cap shenanigans that could be employed so that Click isn't taking a designated player spot? There's not.
Yeah, there is. Contract buyout.
Well, yeah, I mean, that I don't think is what he meant. But that is true. We have one per year. We could use it on him. That's true.
Here's my prediction for Click. I think he'll be here on the roster 2025. It'll go to the summer window. If he's playing well, if he is like playing, if he's playing well, he's playing up to a level, you'll see them keep him. Maybe they, who knows? Like, we would not have predicted like where DC was like at the summer window versus where they were at the beginning. But I think, and if he's not, I think they exercise that buyout, and if they have somebody in mind that they want to go get, it becomes maybe a little bit more palatable for the owners to pay.
From Instagram, @GumIsNotFood says, why don't we get more accurate injury info from NWSL? All we get is thigh. It's like lower body injury in the NHL. Sometimes it's the agreed upon with the players union what they release and what they don't release. I think that is more than likely what it is about. Although you can also look at NWSL and say, boy, wouldn't it be great if they had XG without having to resort to like, private entities collecting XG. There are holes in the data that the league generates and gives. I think it's just a fact that the league is still maturing and growing, and interest is still growing in those things. So if I had to guess, it would be most likely due to an agreement with the union to not disclose more than what they are. That's my guess.
And it's much better than, let me tell you, USL trying their players for the Richmond Kickers that I would just see vanish, and I'd be like, what's going on? Oh, they're hurt. And I'm like, okay, why don't we have an injury report on them?
Where'd he go? It's actually he's a mercenary fighter in a foreign war. We just didn't tell you. He's gone. Yeah. He's deployed. One of them's hiking
mountains right now. Idiomora actually she's out there hiking around. So in Japan. So
question that's coming in live now says, existential question: is ownership committed to winning a championship? And if not, then why should we as diehard fans be excited about the future of the club? I mean, it is existential, certainly. Is the point of sports only to win a championship? and that's it. And if everything, and if who was the quote was the Giannis from the Bucks. His interview was at the end of the season. He was. They were asking if the season was a failure, and he was like, "I mean, no, it can't be. Like there's one. So every year there's one team that had something to take out of this, and everyone else is a failure. We're never gonna be. We're never going to have the resources of an Arthur Blank. We're never going to have the resources of the City Football Group. We're never going to have the resources of a bunch of the different ownership groups in MLS. Would they like to win a championship? Certainly. Are they going to spend money they don't have or spend money they would, otherwise? I don't think money is the problem. I think he'd love to win a championship. They brought in a general manager who was not Garth Lagerwey, but certainly was an up-and-comer. They brought in a coach that is seemingly doing better than, his resume was short, but he's had, he's made players buy in. Why should we as fans be invested? I can't answer that question for anybody. I mean, I'm invested until the end. That's why I'm invested. I'm not opting out. I can't. And not just because of this podcast. That's just for me, it gets in your blood and it doesn't leave. And that's that's all there is to it. But for other folks, there's certainly other places to spend your entertainment dollar and your time. I don't begrudge anyone making those choices. But for me, I'm in. So that's why I'm excited.
And I think Pablo kind of talked about this. He's kind of talked about how, is the front office motivated? I mean, basically the crowd seem like pretty much about the same, regardless what happens with the team. I think the ownership does want to win. You own a sports team. It has to be frustrating when you go to those owner meetings and you've got all these owners basically either not paying attention to you or kicking, hey, you guys still haven't made the playoffs. Ha ha ha. You guys still can't get over that hump. I mean, it has to kill them. What do you like? Why do you even get into this? I mean, there's the business aspects, but I think deep down, I think he does care. I think he's shown that he wants the team to win. I think it's been a matter of the management style or however what's happening has been poor for so long, and he's trusted the wrong people, and maybe he's finally starting to trust the right people. I think this is a situation though, and this is why maybe I don't blame Dave Casper. I think Dave Casper's in an impossible situation because he's been there in the job so long. He needed to do drastic things to try to make the team better. Now you get in a GM who has a little bit more freeway, so he can start to demand some things. Look, you brought me in. This is what we need. We need a full-time academy now. None of this like half measure, like we're gonna bring a full-time academy. We're going to, I'm going to cut all these players and we're going to go sign new players. I need, funds. And that can happen when you bring someone new, just in the basis.
We bought a player out this season.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would we have done that in the past? Absolutely. We would not have done that in the past.
Yeah.
No way. I mean, Ravel Morrison, for instance, was not bought out. He just was isolated from the team. So, I mean, to your point, I don't think he wants to lose. This guy he does not live, breathe, and sleep and dream soccer. Like that's not what this is for him. He wants to win. He's a multi-team owner, multi-sport team owner. We don't love the guy, but I certainly think that he wants to win, and he's he's not starved the team completely of resources. This is not Major League 2. We're not trying to move the team to, wherever.
I think he is
Detroit.
I think he almost like cares more about this team than like some of the other teams. Like I feel like this is the team like he's invested the most in.
Yeah,
if you want to get into it.
Ask Swansea, or is he a part owner of the Memphis Grizzlies?
At one point, I'm not sure if he still is a part of it.
If they are, when's the last time you've heard about the Memphis Grizzlies? John Morant plays for them, I think. That's all I know.
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't even play for them. I don't follow the NBA. Sorry.
So I feel like with this team, yes, his how he's been around with Swansea has not been good, but I feel like this is a team like he's invested in building a stadium. He's invested, and as the team has success, that market value goes up. Like it goes up. Look at the teams that have the highest valuation, whatever you say that is all the teams that are doing the best, or have some of the best players. So I think he understands that. I think every sports owner should understand that. Like, having prolonged success can help your team be more valuable. More people want to buy your merchandise, want to buy your stuff, want to buy your jerseys if the team is good.
All right, let's speed through these. We're going long. These are good questions, so thank you for all the questions everyone's brought in. Curtis Fisher, I think this is on Instagram, asks, what signings would make us a playoff team? This is a combination question. What signings would make us a playoff team? What would make us a contender? And what do you want the front office to focus on in this offseason? Those are all kind of the same thing. Clearly, we need a goalkeeper.
Elite
We actually
goalkeeper.
need 3. So I think we would definitely want to do that. We need a solution at center back.
Elite center back, yep.
And I think we need a chance creator. However you want to, whatever flavor you want to make for that. And then a goal scoring contribution. Somebody who scores goals.
I'm going with just I think realistically winter window. I want elite goalkeeper, elite shot stopper, guy that gets you excited. Whether that's using a DP slot or not, I would prefer not. But I'm not going to say no if the player is really good. If we get a Roman Berkey, if we get a guy who's elite and can really like keep us in games. Goal scoring was not a problem last year. This team was able to score goals. They were not able to stop other teams from scoring goals. And we saw that time and time again. And then, of course, I think an elite center back. There's a lot of, I think there's some options out there. We got a question about free agency. It's going to be the free agency list that the MLSPA produces is hard because some of the players, that player looks good. But yeah, he's probably going to get his option exercise because he's a good player. So yeah,
let's take one of the 9,000 Chelsea goalkeepers on loan that have previously played in MLS. surely one of them wants to play some games.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we've been talking about it for quite some time. Sort of up the spine of this team is where you need some help.
We'll look to have a show probably closer to free agency once everything's out. We have the list. Yep. We can maybe compile players who we think might be interesting. Maybe that'll make a great Patreon post.
It would when we go into our every other week episode schedule, which is soon. As soon as the Spirit are out,
win NWSL Cup, man. Come on.
That's considered out, like the out of the league because it's done. Let's see. Mark Rickling says, why did Bona get released? We talked about that. Doyle recently remarked his keeper shot stopping stats. I think we talked about that pretty extensively. Torres Jr. says, do we really believe that this offseason will be any different for DC United? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think off the jump, typically what happens, longtime observers will know that we go as long as possible until we go the last day possible for roster announcements. The deadline will be whatever it is, November 15th. We release it at 4 p.m. on the 15th. I imagine that they're going to move pretty quickly in the international market as soon as possible. I think they're going to make some moves here in the redraft and the free agency market because they've got a lot of spots to fill. They could have easily said, think about this. If you've been a fan for 6 years, all you need to be here. We missed the playoffs by 1 point, 2 points. Was it 2 points or 1 point? Whatever it was, less than a win. You could have easily had a guy say, hey, you know what? Let's run it back. We were real close. We almost made it. One or two signings. We'll keep all the players on options. 1 more year with Benteke. Let's just go. We'll try again. That could have easily happened. That's the cheapest route to go to extend these players. Or you're not spending any new money. If we were talking about ownership not being, wanting to spend money, that would be the easiest thing to do. And instead, we released half the team. Mm-hmm. So this is an entirely different offseason. It's a new beast.
Really, really go. If you're really wondering whether this will be different, go look at this roster. This team has not had a situation, I think, where they've been fully in they've had to rebuild this much of the roster. Honestly, probably since that 2017-2018 season. That's probably the last time. It's always been, we've got some pieces built out. We've got maybe some room to sign 1, 2, 3 key players. This will be a roster where like I said, I think after seeing all these releases, you're going to have a new starting goalkeeper. That's a given. Going to have a new starting center back. Right, left back might be there. You might have another center back you got to bring in because you're, depending on what Akamboni's status is. You maybe you're looking at a chance. You're looking at 3-4 new players, depth wise too. You're looking at several different changes to that and into the roster. So this is going to be a massive facelift. I believe I've seen some estimates between $7 to $8 million in cap space. Once you factor in GAM and everything, it's about $3 to $4 million of actual cap space, and then you throw in the extra GAM that you're going to have sitting there. They didn't trade much GAM. I don't think. I think maybe they traded a little bit to get McVay, but I think it was $100,000 or something like that. they are going to have a massive amount of space. That's a benefit, and it's also potential because every GM is going to know that. Every agent's going to know that when you're negotiating free agency. So this is going to be tricky for Mackay to try to maneuver, because every agent's going to look and say, well, I know you've got, 5 million something in cap space, so you're going to pay my player an extra 300,000 or extra 200,000.
This is where that like you said, I think this is where the agent experience helps. You have to counteract the thing that Pablo talked about, is that DC United has been known as the mark, basically, in MLS history. They overvalue players. They decide things poorly. So, all right, next question. At the DK in Philadelphia, the DK in PHL, in the free agent list, who do you like? Who do you want? I looked at this briefly. The player that I want the most is Jeremy Bobasi.
Mm-hmm.
That's a player I think would be really, really good. Hilariously, also on San Jose, I look at a player like Tommy Thompson as right back depth. I think that you could do worse. He's obviously passed it quite a bit. Albert Rusnak is another player, and then the one other player, as partially seriously, partial as a joke, Rodrigo Schlegel, who could also be your third goalkeeper in a pinch. If you remember,
I'm looking at this the Revolution list right here, and I mean, there's some good players here, and I think they're in the situation in Revolution, I think, is outside of that. Tim Parker coming up on the list here.
Tommy McNamara.
Yeah, T-Mac. That would be a weird. If you guys remember, like, Tommy Mac was like a player. Was it, for those that's a trivia question of, like, that's like
who's
a player
who is the shortest DC United tenure of all time?
That was a guy we literally took in the Chivas USA dispersal draft. I've highlighted Steve Clark, maybe a goalkeeper you would look at. Latif Blessing, maybe as an attacking midfielder. Again, these guys are on options. We'll have, if you look at the free agency list, you can get excited about some players, but
like Dane Sinclair, for instance.
Yeah, Dane Sinclair. But some of these players probably will have their options exercised. One player that some people have talked about as a chance creator is Albert Rusnak.
I said that. Yeah,
that would be a player. And apologies if you brought him up already. That would be a player, like, if you really, like, want to get a chance creator in, and maybe you want to, you can. I don't know, maybe get that down to a TAM.Maybe you can't, but that's a player. If you want to get somebody to go and try to win now as sort of a number 10 chance creator in front of a Click who can also do some chance creating, maybe you can build something there. So
I also see this guy Ruan. Have we heard of him? Is he a player that we might want? And then lastly, a player that I have talked about for probably 5 seasons now, Jonathan Lewis, is out of contract. I think the bloom is fully off the rose on him, but if not, I'd love to see him get a look.
Yeah, and then other goalkeeper here, William Yarborough, I think would be interesting to bring in as well.
Right.
We also have to watch. We only have 2 international slots that are going to be open, so
I think we'll be buying some of those.
Yeah, possibly.
Let's see.
Maybe some green cards. I don't know. Benteke? Can he got to be close, right?
He's got to be close.
Click, maybe close too.
I mean, for all the time, apparently Benteke spends in Miami, I would think that you like figure out a way to get another passport. OVD says, would love to hear a review sometime this offseason of innovative things other organizations are doing around the league. Sure, we'll do that in the offseason. At JRS says, how big a deal is it that we do not have or appear not to have any plans for MLS next team in the near future, maybe 2026? It is a big deal. It's not new news because we haven't had one. We're the only team that doesn't. We pay a fine every year for it. The only information we have is that the plan is for 2026. Mm-hmm. That's what we've heard on the pitch pass with Alan Mackay earlier in the year. We'd love to have it. We've talked about it a million times. How big of a deal is it? It's a deal.
Yeah. What do you think? I think the full-time academy that was just announced was starting with the U16 is kind of targeting. It feels like that's sort of a plan. Like, we're going to start this full-time academy. We're going to disperse it out to we're going to start here. Then we're going to have, keep it U16, the U17, U18, then it's going to become the full-time academy, then the U18, 19. And then by then we're going to be 2026, 2027. We're going to have an MLS Next Pro team by then. So that feels like there is a plan around that. I don't think we really talked a lot about the full-time academy. That is, in my mind, one of the most significant moves the team has made in a while. We talk about moves about this team trying to get to, and I'm hearing this, maybe I already talked about this, but trying to get to, like, catch up with everybody else. This is a move that says now we're reaching beyond what everybody else is doing, because not every other team is doing any type of full-time academies. So that's certainly intriguing and something to watch.
This is a fun sausage making question. I'm curious if you have thoughts on this. Frank Itsuo, who's one of our Patreon supporters and has been for a long time, thank you. He said, "What have you both liked and not liked about running the podcast / media platform?" I love that the media platform part of it. So far this last season, I can go first. We've been doing this a long time, a long time. I think we're over 400 episodes. The exact number is unknown. It's impossible to count at this point. We've moved platforms a couple times. I think probably near 500.
I need to find the Twitter direct message I sent where I was like, hey, let's do this thing. It'll be fun.
Yeah, we should. It's a historical document at this point. It is a grind. Every time I tell people that we do this show and who we do it for, they're like, really? I'm like, wow. Are there DC United fans? I'm like, there are. There's not a lot of us, but we're here. We're not going anywhere. It is the thing you want most of this team is to be good and to be interesting. Consistently. I think we've had years where they have been neither good nor interesting, and it's been a real struggle. This year, I feel like I think it hit me like how long we've been doing this, and I just want some playoffs. And there have been times where I think both have felt like the grind of the routine of doing this. We love doing it, otherwise we'd stop doing it. We love the people who care about the show a lot and tell us they like the show and keep and financially support us. All those things, we love all that. But I think it is certainly a labor of love to do. When you talked about before, like in like the middle of the season, when the games don't really mean anything, and we've lost the lead again, and we don't want to watch. We don't even want to watch the game, much less talk about it for an hour. It's tough. The things I've liked most about it are the listeners exclusively. Like I would say, the internet, and I've said this since we've had 500 episodes. I've said this exact thing surely at least 5 times. The internet is full of mean people who will say things just to hurt your feelings, and they won't even think that you're a person, and they just want to just feel a jolt of power to make you sad for a second. And for the overwhelming majority, I would say 99.999% of the people that ever talk to us about this show, they have nothing but nice things to say. In a way, I have trouble personally in my own life taking compliments seriously. I always think that either they are disingenuous or there's like some I struggle with it. And like we so universally have such great fans who just say how much they like the show. It blows my mind. It's like the one nice corner of the internet. So that's what I like most about the show is the people who listen to it.
Yeah. And, I think, it's certainly a small community. I think as other shows get bigger, and we've had some people say some not so nice things about us.
Sure, that's okay.
And they're certainly out there. And there's some of them, that's why we're no longer on Twitter or X anymore. But, I think you're right. I mean, just the vast majority of people we talk to love the show. They love talking to the show. They love, they love this team and they want this team to be successful. And, I've always tried to put sort of I want to make sure there's always a fan voice on the show. I know it's us two talking and we have our opinions about the team and where things go, but we like to keep the fans. That's why we like questions. We like to read every question. I feel so bad every time I miss a question or a question. I'm like, I really wanted to read that question. Shoot, I missed it. So I appreciate nobody's like, you didn't say my question. So yeah, it is a grind though. And I mean, I was trying to do post-game stuff, preview stuff, and I literally burnt myself out by mid-year. I was just like, I can't do this anymore. It's just like, the games got bad too. So it was just like, what am I going to write like positive about this game? Or what am I going to say that's good? I want to get back to some more of that preview stuff. I think I definitely want to, I think the writing stuff, I feel like I've gotten a certain love for. I think it's allowed me to sort of expand some thoughts. So it's something I want to keep doing.
And we also had at one point a listener long-term, but if you've been watching the show for a while, we expanded. We did multiple shows. We added Next in Line. We had a website. We had writing, and it was too much. I think it was obviously too much, and we've scaled back. I do miss that part of it though. Like if we were to find ourselves in people approaching us to help us grow the show and help us build it out more, I'm very amenable to it. Like that's the thing that was exciting me was like seeing what we could create. This show is not going to go away. The me and Ted part, like this, we're locked in here. We're locked in. But that part's exciting too. Where there aren't a lot of people writing about this club. There aren't a lot of people talking about this club. it is a unique position. The downside of the niche is you have a low ceiling on the people that will listen to it. But the good part is that your voice carries because of a lack of other, there's not even a beat writer anymore besides from Steve Goff. So anyway, last one, I think, although Kim says, Kim reminding us that we are a popular podcast about DC United, and that he's also keeping score of unanswered questions. Jordan asks, should DC United sell Matai? And if so, what's your number to say yes? We've kind of already talked about should they sell the player. What is your number? Do we have a number in mind?
3 to 5 million. So 3 being the low. And I would want, like, the more they hit, the more towards the 3 I want, bigger sell on. I want maybe some incentives to make that 5. I think you value him as a player that can be really good. I think you want, you don't want to hold it up if he's a player that you think you can be really good. And I think also the GAM, like I said, could help us this year where we really need it. But I also, I'm tired of, I want, the Kevin Paredes maybe extended a little bit. I want a year where you see some moments, you see some memories. His goal against Toronto, Kevin Paredes, will always be one I really remember. I mean, that was like his arrival. He's like, this guy is good. This guy is he's now the starter. Joseph Moore is on the bench. And that's what I want. I want from some of these guys that we bring in, sign for academies. It's fine if they get sold, but man, give me some good memories. Give me something that, I can talk to, I can speak to when he's out there, playing for the national team or playing in higher levels in Europe. I saw him when he was at DC. Those are types of things that, you want as a fan. Even if you aren't
Griffinau scoring the winner in the empty COVID stadium and hugging Paul Arriola, for instance.
Even that's really small though, man. But it's those are good moments. We did get a question here, and I think it's a good one. It says, given the extent of rebuilding, this will be the last one, I promise. Given the extent of the rebuilding of the roster in the offseason, want to take months for Troy to build chemistry? And what does success look like next year? Just making the playoffs or winning the playoffs? That's a good question. I would say chemistry. The turnover, I think, is, if you actually go through who the starting lineup would be right now, I think the turnover is a little bit less. And I think also we saw this coach come into a roster that was already down and managed to get them playing. Look at how quickly that team kind of came together and under a new style, a very different style from what, and they, I think they've got some great leaders. I think Click's a great leader in the locker room. I think Benteke has been a fantastic leader in that locker room. He's a player that I think will help command respect. So, I'm not really concerned about who they bring in as far as chemistry issues.
I think you brought in Troy because he's good at chemistry building.
Mm-hmm.
So that if there's anything that I'm not worried about, it's that. I think that, to your point, he did that very quickly last year. He was cooking with other people's ingredients too, to try to play his style. And this offseason, that will not be the case. What is the expectation? It's to win in the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's to not just make the playoffs, it's to win in the playoffs. And I think anything short of that could be perilous to job security.
7th is a minimum expectation for me this year. And that's bare minimum. I want to be, I'm not going to go crazy and say I want to be top 4, but I want to be somewhere between 5th, 6th, and 7th. That's bare minimum. Anything, if we're top 4, we're top 3, then I think we're talking serious. But we got, we have sort of a 1-year window with, probably the best designated player we've ever had. And we got to put a team out there that can win. So yeah, folks, it's going to be fun. We still got the Spirit season. We definitely are not going to go away from that. They got their last game coming up. Then we got playoffs to talk about there. And then, we've got more off-season content. So again, like we said earlier, guys, we really appreciate you. You guys are what keeps this show going. The questions we get in. This was going to be a 30-minute show, and it turned into an hour show.
And you made it an hour. So thank you all. Thank you to the folks who joined us for our first ever simulcast on Instagram and actually stayed the entire hour, some of you. So you made you made a liar out of me. I didn't think anyone would do that. But so thank you. And thanks for joining us wherever you are and listening to this whenever you're listening to it.
Yep. And we'll catch you guys next week. Vamos.
Vamos. I think that